holding 23b. That's Chaf Gimel Lamed Beis, towards the bottom. The Mishnah listed to us certain types of oils that you're allowed to use, or not allowed to use, rather. On Shabbos, one of them was Shemen Sreifa, translated as burnt oil. When it asks, my Shemen Sreifa, what does it mean? Oil for burning, burnt oil.
Yeah, you should mute everyone.
Let me do that. So I'm a Rabbi. Rabbi says Shemen Shel Truma. It's oil of Truma Shenitmu, that the Truma became tummy. Now, Truma is supposed to be eaten. Truma Tmeya is not allowed to be eaten. So what do you do with it? You're supposed to burn it. So V'maikar L'Shemen Sreifa, why is it called this Truma Tmeya oil? You have to give 2% to the Kayan. That 2% is Truma, that becomes tummy. So it's called Shemen Sreifa, Hayol Sreifa Oimid, because that's what you're about to do with it next, is to burn it. So it's already given the title of burnt oil, because that's the only thing you can do with it is burn it. B'Shabbos my time aloi. So why can't you use it on Shabbos? Burn it. You'll use it for your candles. That's burning it. It says no. Mitoich shemitzvah of levarei, because you're commanded, you're fulfilling a command. When you do burn it, gzeir shemiyati, you may be over excited about this and adjust the flame to make it burn better. Now, we've only had so far adjusting the flame for two possible reasons. Either it doesn't burn well, or you're reading by the candle and you're the type of person that would adjust the flame, not Adam Chashav or whatever, you would adjust it yourself. Here, we're not talking about reading by the candle, and we're not talking about that it doesn't burn well. We're just concerned about someone that's overly excited about doing the mitzvah of burning his truma, so he's going to end up adjusting the flame. Amalei Abaya says to his teacher Rabbi, Elamiyata b'yamtav lishtri. What's your concern? Concern is that you're going to adjust the flame. What's adjusting the flame? That's a problem of burning a fire on Shabbos. On Yom Tov, that's what you're allowed to do. Alama Tanan, why was it taught in the following Mishnah in Madlikim Shemen Sreifa b'Yom Tov? You can't use Shemen Sreifa on Yom Tov. Turn the page just 1 second. Just turn to Daf Chav Dalet Amud Beis. It's so close. They have a Mishnah there that we'll learn later today. In Madlikim Shemen Sreifa b'Yom Tov. You can't use Shemen Sreifa b'Yom Tov. That's talking about Truma. Truma, that's tummy. Why can't you burn Shemen Sreifa b'Yom Tov? The problem we learned by Shabbos is because Shemayata, you might adjust the flame. On Yom Tov, you're allowed to adjust the flame. So, because on Yom Tov, you're allowed to cook, you're allowed to burn. There's no problem of making a fire. And the Gemara answers, Gzeira Yom Tov at Shabbos. If you're allowed to do it on Yom Tov, you might end up doing it on Shabbos also. Tosfos over here asks, so why do you only say Gezeira on Yom Tov at Shabbos by this one type by the Shemen Sreifa? What about all the Bameh Madlikins that we had? We said Leba Lechesh, Leba Chaysen, and it comes to Yom Tov, you only give us one item, Shemen Sreifa. It sounds like you have no problem of Shemayata on Yom Tov. You're allowed to use all of them. You only have one single concern, and that's Shemen Sreifa. And that concern is a Gzeira at the Shabbos. It doesn't fit. If there's a Gzeira to Shabbos, so you have all the other types of oils that there's a Gzeira. You should make a Gzeira. So Tosfos says that there's a big difference between them. Over there, it's very obvious that you can't use them on Shabbos because they don't burn well. So, and on Yom Tov, there's no problem because you're allowed to adjust the flame on Yom Tov. Over here, where it does burn well, you would think that, look, I can do it on Yom Tov, I can do it on Shabbos, and you will forget about the issue of Shemayata because of an excitement to burn this, because it's a mitzvah to burn it. So over here, they made a gzeira. Very interesting Taisvus. He points out, he has a discussion between two Bali Taisvus, Rabbeinu Eliezer and Rabbeinu Shmuel. And the discussion is over the text of the Amira. Over here we have Rabbi that says that you can't use Shemen Shel Truma. You can't use Shemen Streifa, Truma Shenitma. Gzeira Shemiyata. It's a Gzeira. It's a Gzeira Shemiyata. The problem is in the following Gemara that we'll learn later, we have a statement from Rava. It's 4 lines from the bottom on the next page. It says you're not allowed to burn it on Yom Tov or on Shabbos even. It says, Hu levada yasalachem. On Yom Tov we have a gzeira. On Yom Tov we have a pasuk that tells us that you're not allowed to burn it on Yom Tov. What are you telling me? It's a gzeira. It's a gzeira. I have a pasuk that I'm not allowed to burn it on Yom Tov. So that's Taisvus. That's Rabbi Eliezer's, one of the Balei Taisvus. So Rabbeinu Shmuel responds to him that the text, you don't have the correct text. This is Rabbah and that was Rava. And it's interesting. And then he says that it makes sense like that because Abaye is a student of Rabbah. So Abaye here is responding to his teacher. Okay. Taisvus then asks an important question. He says, this whole discussion is Shemayata as a Gzeira. You might adjust the candle. Then you're saying that you might do that on Shabbos. So therefore, you can't do it on Yom Tov because you might do it on Shabbos, which you might. That's a clear Gzeira, which we had before in the Gemara. The Gemara was about adding other oil into it to make a mixture. So Taisvus says that when it comes to Yom Tov and Shabbos, that's not considered Gzeira. They're so similar that it's considered one Gzeira, and you have to leave it like that. That's not okay. Now we have the opinion of Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda Amar L'Shemayata Lechashinan. Says, we're not concerned about Shemayata. Elahacha, that means adjusting the flame on Shabbos. Elahacha, what are we dealing with here? B'Yom Tov shechaliyas erev Shabbos askinan. Our Mishnah, but Memadlikin. What a surprise. Didn't tell us anything about this. It just said, what are you allowed to burn on erev Shabbos? And what do you know? It's not even talking about erev Shabbos. It's talking about a special erev Shabbos. That erev Shabbos was also Yom Tov. And that's when you're not allowed to use Shemen Streifa. But Fisha Surf and Kachim be Yom Tov, because you're not allowed to burn Kachim on Yom Tov. That the Gemara is going to learn in the next, we'll learn later today, in Surf and Kachim be Yom Tov, that Kachim that's left over, nicer, wasn't eaten in its proper time. You're supposed to burn it, whatever other issue it had. You don't do it. You don't burn it on Yom Tov. You learn it from different sources. So here, that's what we're dealing with. You're not allowed to use Shemen Shel Truma Tmeya because it's actually Yom Tov. It's not Friday afternoon. It's Friday afternoon. That's Yom Tov. The Gemara says, 1 second. The following Mishnah says clearly that you're not allowed to burn Shemen Streifa on Yom Tov. If you read further, if you read the Mishnayos one after the other, it's very clear. It's telling me that that's a new story. Shemen Sreifa of the first Mishnah was just a regular Shabbos. So the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Chanina Misura Matam Kamar. It's not actually a new story. It's elaborating on the reason for the first Mishnah. Matam Ein Madlikim B'Shemen Sreifa B'Yom Tov. What's the reason why I don't use Shemen Sreifa on Yom Tov? V'Shein Tzarfen Kachim B'Yom Tov. Because you're not allowed to burn it on Yom Tov. Okay, without the Gemara, Mishnah would have told us something totally different. Tosfos on the following page is going to ask that there's a big difference between burning kachim on Yom Tov and burning truma on Yom Tov. When you burn kachim, you're not allowed to have any benefit from it. When you burn truma, you are allowed to have benefit from it. So on Yom Tov, you're allowed to have benefit. You're allowed to cook. So why is there a problem of burning truma on Yom Tov? If I'm allowed to use the burning items for fuel, kachim I can't burn on Yom Tov for whatever reason, but I'm not cooking along with that. I'm not using it for fuel. But truma, I can. So Rav Chisda's teretz over here, and then the Gemara, the Mishnah later on that says that you're not allowed to burn shemen shel truma tzmei on Yom Tov. The logic doesn't apply because truma is different than kachim. Kachim I can't use while it's burning. I can't use the fuel. And truma I can. Tosfos says that nevertheless you're not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to do it on Yom Tov. Some proofs. Okay. Tani Kavaseder Rav Chisda. There's a brisa that supports Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said that the two Mishnayos, Bameh Madlikin, Bameh Ein Madlikin, which lists Shemen Shel Truma, Shemen Sreifa, you're not allowed to use, that's explained in the following Mishnah as Shemen of Truma, and it's actually that Friday is actually Yom Tov, and you're not allowed to use it on that Friday leading into Shabbos. Only because ain't Sarfin Kachim Yom Tov. The proof that the Gemara brings is a little bit odd. Tosfos asks on this. Well, let's see. It says Kolei lo shamrein madlikim b'm Shabbos, and it's on top of Daf Chaf Daled. Quote the brisa. All of the things that said that you're not allowed to use them on Shabbos, madlikim b'm b'Yom Tov. You're allowed to use them on Yom Tov. Why? Because there's no problem of Shemayata. Chutz mi Shemen Sreifa, except for Shemen Sreifa. You're not allowed to use that on Yom Tov. If you should insert from Kachim be Yom Tov, because you can't burn Kachim on Yom Tov. Tosfos asks, that the Gemara seems to be saying, Ein madlikim ben b'Shabbos, madlikim ben b'Yom Tov, chutz mishem and sreifa, that you're not allowed to use on Shabbos either. You're not allowed to use on Shabbos or Yom Tov. According to Rav Chisda, you're allowed to use it on Shabbos. It's only on Yom Tov that you're not allowed to use it. We had to explain the whole Mishnah. We're not dealing with the regular Friday afternoon. We had to explain the Mishnah we're dealing with a Friday afternoon. That's Yom Tov. Comes along a brisa and says that if you're not allowed to use it for Shabbos, you are allowed to use it for Yom Tov, except for Shemen Sreifa, which you're not allowed to use for Shabbos or Yom Tov. But that wasn't the way Rav Chisda explained the Mishnah. He said that Shabbos you are allowed to use it. So Tosfos explains that this brisa has to be saying, you have to add in a little clause into the brisa. It says, all the things that you're not allowed to light for Shabbos, you are allowed to use for Yom Tov. For sure, things that you're allowed to use for Shabbos, you're allowed to use for Yom Tov. Except for Shemen Sreifa, which even though you're allowed to use it for Shabbos, you're not allowed to use it for Yom Tov. It's like a chsari mechsra in the Tosfos to help me understand how this is a proof. Okay, slightly easier concepts here. Ibailu, the yeshiva had a question. Ma'ol lahazka shel Chanukah b'brichas hamazon. Should we say a mention of Chanukah when we bench? Taisvus asks that this Gemara should have been before the Shemen Shel Truma Gemara, because that was the Chanukah sugya. All right, he just leaves it at that. It's just Tema. This should have been a few lines earlier. So, okay, there's a question. Do you mention Chanukah in benching? The whole story of Chanukah is only rabbinic. All the laws of Chanukah, the whole event was after biblical times. You don't have to put it into the benching. Oidelma, or maybe Misham Persuminisa Medkarinan, or maybe, no, there's Persuminisa. Let's put it in. Put it into the benching. You should mention it just so whoever's around your table should know about it. Why don't we ask about davening? Mentioning in davening, that's the bigger question. The answer is because we know that there's Persumi Nisa by davening. You're davening with a minion, let's say. But by benching, how do you know? There's no, bench with a minion, if there happens to be, but there's no minion to go search for that. So maybe there's no Persumi Nisa, or is it enough of a Persumi Nisa, that little bit, and maybe you're with your family, and you should mention Chanukah and benching. So Amar Rava, Amar Rav Schreira, Amar Rav Huna, Eina Masker. You don't have to. You don't mention Chanukah and benching. Vimba lahasker. But if you are going to mention it, Masker b'haida, you insert it by Noida Lacha. Haida is Noida Lacha in the second blessing of benching. It's interesting. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda, this is not the same Rav Huna that just said that you don't have to mention it. And if you do, you mention it in Naida. Rav Huna Bar Yehuda, Ikla lebei Rava. He was at the house of Rava. Sabalat Kuri b'Bani Yerushalayim. He was going to mention Chanukah in Bani Yerushalayim, which is where we say Ritzei and Yalavi Yavai, all the insertions go in the bracha of Bani Yerushalayim, which begins with Rachem. It doesn't open with a bracha, it concludes with a bracha, Bani Yerushalayim. So he was going to insert it into that bracha. Amar Lahu Rav Sheshes tells him, Kitfila. Don't do that. It's exactly like davening. Ma tfila b'haida, af birchas hamazon b'haida. Just like Alanisim is inserted after Maidim in the bracha of Haida, so too in benching it's inserted by Noidalacha. Okay. Looks like so far that you really don't have to say Alanisim. Just if you want to, that's where you say it. You definitely don't have to go back to repeat. But here it makes it look like it's even less than that. Okay. Iboilu. Unless maybe we should say that Rav Sheshes is arguing. And Rav Sheshes says that you have to do it like. So Rav Sheshes doesn't tell me the obligation. He just says we are. But maybe Rav Sheshes, by telling me we are, is also telling me that it's also just like tefillah, that it's an obligation. And maybe that's where we get that no, you're supposed to. It's not just you don't have to, or you could. Okay. What about saying Rosh Chodesh in Birchas Hamazon? Well, that's obvious. It's a deraisa, right? If you would say on Chanukah you don't have to, like we said with Rav Huna Bar Yehuda, with Rav and Rav Schreira and Rav Huna, that you don't have to on Chanukah. So Rosh Chodesh you do have to, because Rosh Chodesh is a deraisa. What is a deraisa? Well, it says in the Torah that you bring a separate karban and all of that. that has biblical support. Dilma, given the last of Basias Malacha Leimas Karinan. Rosh Chodesh, you're allowed to do work. So maybe you don't have to mention it in benching. So the Gemara says, Rav Amar Mazker. Rav says that you do say Yalav Yava, you do mention Rosh Chodesh. Rav Chanina Amar Eina Mazker. Rav Chanina says you don't have to. Amar Rav Zrika. Nekaita Rav Biyadcha. You should accept the opinion of Rav. The Koi Rav Aishya Kavase, because Rav Aishya holds like him, that you mention Yalav Yava and Rosh Chodesh in benching. Okay, the Tani Rav Aishya, because it was taught in Rav Aishya. Rav Aishya was one of the collectors of brises. Yamim Sheish Bem Karba Musaf. Days that have a Musaf, Kagain, that's supposed to be Rosh Chodesh. Mine says Rosh Hashanah, but it's supposed to be Rosh Chodesh. It says Reish Ches, not Reish Hay. Days that have Musaf, like Rosh Chodesh, V'Chodesh Al-Mayed, Arvis V'Shachas Mincha Mispal Shmein Esr V'Im Mena Ma'ura Ba'Avoda. So, Ma'ariv, Shachas, and Mincha, that's the order of the day. Ma'ariv, Shachas, Mincha. You say Yalav Yavai in Ritzei. Avoda is called, is Ritzei. We call it Ritzei, they call it, the Gemara is called Avoda, the service of the temple. Return the Avoda to its... V'im lo yamar machzir na'aseh. Now, if you don't say it, you have to go back. It's interesting because there's a detail here that's not 100% accurate, at least according to us. Yalav Yavai, by Ma'ariv on Rosh Chodesh, you don't have to go back. Yalav Yavai on Chol Hamoed, you do have to go back. So it's saying sort of in general, Yalav Yavai for Shachar Mincha, you always have to go back if you forget it. There's that one detail, Yalav Yavai Ma'ariv, because there's no testimony. We had a Taisvus in Brachas. There's no Eidos. Okay. Ve'im behem kedusha lakais. However, these days, Chol Hamoed and Rosh Chodesh, you don't say Kiddush. V'yesh behem askara beberchas hamazon, but you mention it in benching, which means you say Yalav Yavai in benching. So that's a support to Rav that says that you mention Rosh Chodesh in benching. Yamim shein bem korban musav, days that don't have a musav, going sheni v'chamishi, which means Monday, Thursday, v'sheni, let's add that in. And also another Monday, v'tainius, and fast days of mamades. Mamades were groups of people that were participate in the korban, representatives of the Jewish people. And they would go to the temple also, and they would fast. They would fast, and they would be considered the representatives of the Jewish people for the Karbanos. Sheni v'chamishi, Maya v'detaya. What are you talking about? Monday and Thursday. What does that have to do with mentioning anything? The Gemara says no. Ela sheni v'heyu beis shel tainius. It said we had a vav utainius. You're supposed to say sheni v'chamishi v'sheni shel tainius. There's a fast called Bahab, Beis Hey Beis, which is Monday, Thursday, Monday. And that we're familiar with it after the three fasts, after the three holidays. I'm sorry, after the holidays of Sukkot and Pesach. There's a concern that people were a little loose in their behavior over the holiday. Mingling or whatever with the nice kiddush, so they made a fast after the holidays. You do it after Tishrei, and you do it after Nisan. That's when it would start, but it would be the Monday, Thursday, Monday after Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan and after Rosh Chodesh Iyar. That's what we're familiar with it. What the Gemara is talking about here is if there was a lack of rain, so they would institute fasts. It's called also Bahab. Now, during that time, there was special prayers that they instituted. And do you mention the specialness, this uniqueness of those days in the prayers? So These are days that you don't have Karban Musaf. And it says over here that Arba Shachris and Mincha Mispal Shemana Esrei V'Omer Mena Me'ora B'Shemei Tefillah. You daven Shemana Esrei, you only mention it in Shemei Tefillah, which is Anenu. And if you don't say, you don't have to repeat it. And then I don't know if this is supposed to be in there. You don't say Kiddush, of course. And you don't mention it in benching. Well, sort of fast days. So what type of benching? That would mean benching of the night before, maybe. Rashi says, so the benching of the night before, that's what that clause would mean. Tesis mentioned, we only say Anenu by Mincha. We don't say it by Shachris. So he says the reason for that is because it could be that the person won't make it through the fast, and that would be considered a lie. So he says, well, why does the Chazan say it by Shachris? He says, well, the Chazan could be saying it for the whole community, and definitely 1 out of 10 is going to make it. Just each individual. So for the community, he can say it. Even you would think he's saying it's for himself. He's the Chazan. No, he's a community representative. So for the community, he can insert it in the morning. And the odds are that someone's going to make it through the fast. But each individual doesn't say it until Mincha. Okay. Now, Ibailu, they have a question. Ma'al haska shel Chanukah b'musafin. You see, there's going to be a Shabbos during Chanukah. There's going to be a Rosh Chodesh during Chanukah. But Musaf really has nothing to do with Chanukah. There was no special Karban Musaf for Chanukah. It was a regular day in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Beis Hamikdash neighborhood. And there was, you said Hallel, but now, if it turned out, if it was the Shabbos of Chanukah or the Rosh Chodesh of Chanukah, so you're going to add in extra prayer. Should you make mention of Chanukah in those prayers that have really nothing to do with Chanukah? So this is the Gemara's question. Since it doesn't have its own musaf, so don't mention it. No. You say Alanisim in Shachris and Arbis Shachris Mincha. So Musaf is just another tefillah of that day. So say Alanisim. Those are the two sides. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda Damri Tavayo Eina Masker. Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda say don't say. Those are students of Rav. Rav Yehuda is also Shmuel. Rav Huna is a student of Rav. Rav Nachman and Rav Yechon Damri Tavayo Masker. Rav Nachman and Rav Yechon say yes, you should say. Amar Abaya Rav Yosef. Abaya says to his teacher, Rav Yosef, Hada Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda the Ravhu. This of Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, that's really a statement of Rav. Dam Rav Gidel Amar Rav, because there's a statement from Rav's student Rav Gidel that said the name of his teacher, Rosh Chodesh Shecholius b'Shabbos. Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos. Hamafter b'Navi b'Shabbos. Ina tzarich la'aska shel Rosh Chodesh. The Navi is the Haftarah. So on Rosh Chodesh we don't say the Haftarah, but on Shabbos you do say the Haftarah. So let's say Shabbos is Rosh Chodesh. So when you finish off the Haftarah, you say Alat Terav Alaveda Yom HaShabbos is and you finish off Mekadesh HaShabbos. You finish off. Do you say Mekadesh HaShabbos Rosh Chodashim? So Rav said no. Shalmali Shabbos Einavi Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Chodesh is not a cause for there to be the Haftarah, so you don't have to mention it. You only mention that what's causing the Haftarah to be recited is Shabbos. So just say Mekadesh HaShabbos. Okay. that's Abaya telling Rabbi Yosef that the fact that you don't have to say Chanukah, you don't have to say Al Anisim in Musaf of Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh on Chanukah is because Musaf is not being caused by Chanukah. And that's a state that goes with the opinion of Rav that the Navi is not being caused by Rosh Chodesh. So you don't have to mention Rosh Chodesh in the Haftarah. Rabbi Yosef says, "Midami." That's not a good comparison. Hasam Navi bid Rosh Chodesh leka klal. There is no reciting of the Navi on Rosh Chodesh. But Hacha Isa be'arbes v'shachos u'mincha. Rabbi Yosef says you're not looking at both sides of this question. You're only taking one side of the question. Both sides of the question were like this. Do we say that Chanukah didn't cause Musaf? Or do we say that Musaf is just one of the other prayers? So you gave a comparison that you don't mention Rosh Chodesh in the Haftarah, in the bracha of the Haftarah. But that's only one side, that the Haftarah isn't being caused by Rosh Chodesh. But the other side of the coin is the Haftarah just one of the prayers? No, the Haftarah is not just one of the prayers. That's clearly an extra prayer that has nothing to do with Rosh Chodesh. But when it comes to Musaf is another one of the prayers. If you happen to say 4 prayers today, then you'll say it because it's one of the 4 prayers. So that side of the coin isn't accurate with the comparison. That's what Rabbi Yosef is saying. In other words, Musaf is more associated with Shachris and Mincha and Ma'ariv than the Haftarah is associated with Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv. Haftarah is a new institution that has nothing to do if it's not with Rosh Chodesh. Ela lahadamya. You have to compare it to this. Damarav achtavay Yossi. Amarav matana marav. Yom Tov shechaliyas b'Shabbos. Let's say Yom Tov is on Shabbos. Look at this. We have a mention of an ancient minhag that we're not familiar with anymore. Hamafter b'Navi b'Mincha b'Shabbos. The Haftarah that we say by Mincha on Shabbos, ein tzarich lahazdir shel Yom Tov. You don't have to mention Yom Tov. Shel Mali Shabbos ein Navi b'Mincha b'Yom Tov. Taisa says, what are you saying? There's no Haftarah by Mincha, except on certain fast days. And even that, I think it's only Ashkenazim. There's no Haftarah by Mincha. So Taisvus says, the bottom Taisvus, the Navi dehacha hainu ksuvim. So you maftirin b'ksuvim b'Shabbos b'Mincha t'amar par kol kisvei b'nardoi. Apparently, there was a minhag. Rashi says, "Matzasi b'shuvas hagainim sheyirgil mikras b'Navi b'Shabbosis b'Mincha asara psukim." He has a different story. It's not ksuvim. It's mamash the Navi. B'mei parsiyim gozru gzeira shalei lasis kivin shenestalko. We always understood that the Haftarah was because they didn't let us read from the Torah. So we read the Haftarah. Now Haftarah is like dessert, like in maftirin. So that's what we read. They didn't let us take out the Torah, so we read from the Navi. Here, there was a reading of the Navi by Shabbos Mincha, and they didn't let us read from the Navi, so we had to stop it. And so this is just an old record of a minhag that we don't have anymore. Okay, so what are we saying here? That on Shabbos they would do this, but they wouldn't do it on Yom Tov. So let's say Yom Tov is Shabbos. Do you mention Yom Tov in the blessings of the Haftarah, of the Navi? So he says that you don't mention it. Shel Mali Shabbos ein Navi b'Mincha b'Yom Tov. If not for Shabbos, then you wouldn't say it. You don't do it on Yom Tov. You only do it on Shabbos. Well, now, for Yom Tov, I would have had Navi that day, just not by Mincha. So here it's more of a comparison. Do we say that, well, it's today I do the Navi twice? Or do I say no? And he says that you don't do it. However, the halacha is not like Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, Rav Gidl, Rav Achtavai. Rather, you mention it in all of the Shemon Esreis of the day, which is that Chanukah you do mention in Musaf. Taisva says, Rav Gidl was the one that said that you don't say Rosh Chodesh on Shabbos. You don't mention it in the Haftarah. Taisva says that that's not true. Taisva says that the halacha is not. Rashi says the halacha is not like Rav Gidl that you do mention it. The truth is that we don't mention it. That's what Taisva says. I don't remember, but I think we do say Mekadosh Shabbos for Rashi Chodashim. No, I think we do say it, which is interesting. I have a note on the side to see another Taisvus, but I don't know what it says over there. Okay. Ella, rather, Kihad the Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, from something that Rabbi Shua ben Levi said. Yom Kippurim shechali b'Shabbos. Yom Kippur, that's on Shabbos. Hamispalal ne'ilah tzarich lahaska shel Shabbos. Yom Moshe neschayev bar b'tfilas. It's considered just another one of the tefillas of the day, and you have to mention Shabbos in that tefillah. Now, I know that you don't say ne'ilah on Shabbos. And we always refer to Yom Kippur as a day of 5 prayers. But here we're referring to 4 prayers because we're not counting the Ma'ariv from before. So on the day we have Shachris, Musaf, Mincha, and Ne'ilah. Those are 4 prayers. You definitely don't count the Ma'ariv after. But it's a day of 4 prayers. So, but nevertheless, do you mention in the Ne'ilah, make mention of Shabbos? Because Shabbos is not causing you to say Ne'ilah. Yom Kippur is causing you to say Ne'ilah. But nevertheless, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says you put it in. The Gemara says, Kasha Hilchasa Hilchasa. Which is Amrat Hilchasa. There's a problem here because Amrat Hilchasa ki Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Over here you say the halacha is like Rabbi Shua ben Levi. That says that you make mention of it, of Shabbos in the Ne'ilah. V'kaimal and Hilchasa ki Rava. But we also have established the halacha like Rava. Damar Rava Yom Tov Shchaliyas b'Shabbos. If Yom Tov is on Shabbos, Shliach Tzibur Yer Lifnei Ateva Arbis. Ein Tzarech Lahaskar Shel Yom Tov. We're talking about a Friday night. That's also Yom Tov. So after Vayichulu, or after everyone finishes Shemon Esrei, so there's a small repetition of the Shemon Esrei. It's called Man Sheva, where the congregation recites Magin Aves B'Dvarei Mechayim Es Ma'amare. It's like a shortened version of a Shemon Esrei. In that shortened version, Man Sheva, you don't make mention of Yom Tov. Well, you don't make mention of Yom Tov. Why not? We said you make mention of Shabbos in Ne'ilah, even though Shabbos isn't causing Ne'ilah. I know Yom Tov isn't causing that Mi'an Sheva, but at least it is Yom Tov. You should make mention of it. So in the explanation is Shomali Shabbos Ein Shliach Tzibur Yerd Arvis Bi Yom Tov. Because if not for Shabbos, you wouldn't be just saying it because of Yom Tov. Yom Tov doesn't cause us to be said, so you don't have to mention it. So how does this work? Is it one of the tefillas of the Yom Tov? Then say it. Or is it does it have to do with what's causing it to be said? The Gemara says, Hachiyashta. 1 second. Hasam b'dinu dafila b'Shabbos nami leitzarech. This is not a prayer that's really necessary even on Shabbos. Why was it instituted? Rabbanan hu d'tikunim mishum sakana. The rabbis instituted because of danger. We'll see in a minute. But over here it's a different. Over here it's a real institution. We instituted those days. Rashi on Sakana says, Mishum Sakana, says that they would not go to shul during the week in the evening. They would daven Ma'ariv in their house. The shuls were not local. They had to go outside the city to get to the shul. And they would come home late from work and they wouldn't go to shul. So we have the Gemara Brachas. Before you eat, you can't say, I'm just going to have a little bite to eat. I'm going to take a nap. Actually, that doesn't fit because that Gemara says rather you go to the Beis Medrash and if in Ragel Likreis, Kaira, and Ragel Lishneis. So over there they would go. That's if you were going early. That would be earlier before Ma'ariv. But Friday night they would go to shul, whatever the case is. Now the shul was out of the town, so it could be someone's going to be coming late. He's going to end up staying late. So they tried to prolong the prayer to keep so that people that were there would all come home together. There shouldn't be someone left there. So they made the prayer a little longer. So that's where they instituted that. The Kacherichu Tfilas HaTzibur. They added that prayer just to help out. Okay. The next case of the Mishnah, the next piece was V'loi Ba'alya, not with fat. The alya is the fat tail, but that you're not supposed to use this fat for lighting. Nachum Hamadi said, you can't use the alya or chelev or other fat. Nachum Hamadi says no. If it's boiled, you're allowed to use it. Chachamim, whether it's cooked, whether it's boiled or not boiled, you can't use it. Well, the Chachamim are the same as the Tanakama, because Nachum Hamadi was the one that said, no, if it's boiled, you're allowed to. The Tanakama didn't give you that option, and the Chachamim just spell it out. So the Gemara asks, Chachamim the Tanakama. The Tanakama said that it's forbidden to use. The Chachamim also say it's forbidden to use. It was only Nachum Hamadi that had a dissenting view. The Gemara says, Zikr b'nayu de Rav Bruna Amarav v'lei Masaimi. Rav Bruna Amarav was our question before. If you add in other types of oils into it, we had over here a statement that Rav Bruna Amarav if it's boiled, if it's melted, turn it into a liquid, you can add in other oil. Now, one of these opinions in the Mishnah holds that that's allowed, and one holds that it's not allowed if you mix in other oil. But we don't know the conclusion of who holds what. So we've given an answer, and we said, we know that there's a difference between them. We're not sure who holds what, but that would be the difference. Okay, let's see the new Mishnah. In Madlikim Shimon Sreifa B'Yom we mentioned this before. You can't use oil of truma that became tamei for your candles on Yom Tov. Rabbi Shmuel Leimer Emad Likan Be'itron B'Pnei Kavod Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel says on Shabbos you can't use itron. Itron is like a tar or something. I don't know, what does the English say? Something like that, a tar or pitch. The reason is because it smells. So B'Pnei Kavod Shabbos, it's going to be like a not good smell in the house that you shouldn't use. Chacham Matirin B'Chol Hashmanim. Chacham say you could use any oil. You can use b'shemen shumshmin, sesame oil, b'shemen agayzim, walnut oil, b'shemen tznoines, radish oil. I'm not familiar with that. B'shemen dagim, fish oil, b'shemen pekuis comes from some sort of wild squash. B'itron of a neft. Itron is what we said before. It has that smell. Ubeneft is it's also a type of like the naphtha was like some sort of also like a tar. Reb Tarfon Omer, ein madlikin ela b'shem zayis bilvad. Reb Tarfon says no, you can only use the olive oil. Okay. The Gemara now questions the first statement. My timer, what's the reason why you don't use shemen sreifa? Shemen of truma that needs to be burnt because it became tamei. It was a gift to the kohen, 2% of the Yisrael's produce. So the fish ain't surfing kachem b'yomtiv because you're not allowed to burn kachem on yomtiv. You know, Emily, where do you know this from? The Gemara says, Amar Chizkiya v'chein tana de b'Chizkiya. Chizkiya said, and it was also taught in the yeshiva of Chizkiya. Amar Krav le'sisir menu ad baiker. You shall not leave over from the Karban Pesach until the morning. Ba'noiser mimenu ad baiker, and what is left over till the morning is burnt in fire. She'ein tamad leimer ad baiker. You didn't have to repeat until the morning the second time. You could have said the verse like this: You shall not leave over till the morning, and what is left over you shall burn. You don't have to say, and what is left over till the morning. Yeah, that was already self-understood. So, matam aleimer ad baiker. Why are you saying a second time ad baiker? It's coming to tell me, it goes like this. Shall not leave over till the morning. What is left over till the morning on the following day, then you burn it. And so till the morning on the following day is the time of burning it. What is that telling you? That even though you see, the Korban Pesach was brought on Erev Pesach. You eat it the night of Pesach. What's left over till the morning shall not be eaten the whole day, and on the following morning shall be burnt. So that tells me I'm not allowed to burn kachim on Yom Tov. That's the opinion of Chizkiya. Abaye amar makra oila Shabbos b'Shabbatay v'leil eschol b'Shabbos v'leil eschol b'Yom Tov. No, it says the oila of Shabbos on Shabbos. That tells me that I can't do any other types of burnings in the Beis Hamikdash if it's not required for that day. So it's because the kachim that needs to be burnt is not required to be burnt on that day. So therefore it can't be burnt on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Rava Amar Amakra Hu Levada Yasalachem. This is talking about Eichel Nefesh. Food that's required, it alone shall be eaten for you. Now those words are extra. Things that achashi yoichel chol nefesh yasalachem, and anything that's oichel nefesh, that's food, that's necessary, that you can, yeah, there you go. Dr. Stein's produce.
Is now there are three opinions?
Yeah, three opinions for why. For why. It's all the same reason, it's just what's the source. We'll have another one, but we'll leave that. So, Rava says, Amarkra, Hu Levada Yasalachem, Hu V'lei Machshirin, only the food itself, but you can't go ahead and make a stove or a pot or a spit or something that would use for roasting. That you're not allowed to do. Say, oh, well, it's Eichel Nefesh. I need it to be able to cook better. You know, I need to make a knife. No, that you're not allowed. Levada alone, that word tells me, but not mila shalei bizmana. Dasi b'kal v'chaymer, because I could have been brought with a kal v'chaymer. Now Rashi over here explains what the kal v'chaymer is. It's later in the Gemara. It goes like this. Very interesting. So if someone has tzaras, he can't serve in the temple. That means that tzaras pushes off the avodah. Now, avodah, service in the temple, pushes off Shabbos. Okay, so that would tell me that mila shalei bizmana should push off Shabbos as well. Why? Because mila pushes off tzaras. Let's say a person has tzaras on his bris area, so you're allowed to cut it off. That's that, even though it's on the arla, and you're officially not supposed to cut it. So the mila pushes off tzaras. Tzaras pushes off avodah. which pushes off, Avodah pushes off Shabbos, which leaves us with Mila, whether it's in the correct time of bris, whether it's on the 8th day or on the 9th day or 10th, whatever, the bris wasn't performed on the correct day, that should be pushing off Shabbos as well, because it pushes off Tzeras, which pushes off the Avodah, which pushes off Shabbos. So ultimately, A equals B, or B equals C. Ultimately, A equals D, right? So that's what we're going to be left with the Kal V'chaimer. Based on that, if this pushes off this, in the end, we answer that no. We say that Levada tells me that Mila Shalei Bismana doesn't push off Shabbos. Now, what we learned from this is that any mitzvah, ein zmana kavua, anything that doesn't have a set time, that could be done on another day, doesn't push off Shabbos or Yom Tov. So the same would apply to burning kachim, because it's not set for that day. Mila, which is a big mitzvah, but if it's not set because it's not the 8th day, so then it can't be performed on Shabbos or Yom Tov. So to any other type of burning or those mitzvahs is not done on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Okay, let's leave it right there. Okay.
By the way,